मधु म्यूटेड है, पारुल इज बोल।
हाँ बोल।
हाँ, अब होस्ट बनी है मधु। नॉट एबल टू अनम्यूट। अच्छा अब हो गई ना?
Now
अब
it's
हो
okay, ma'am. Yes.
हाँ हाँ, स्टार्ट करें पारुल?
सर स्टार्ट करें, कमल सर ने ज्वाइन कर लिया ना?
हाँ कमल सर ने ज्वाइन कर लिया, आदित्य सर भी आ गए।
Yeah, we can start.
ओके
हाँ
सर। हाँ मधु,
ठीक है।
we can-
I'll starting the recording and then I will start. Namaste, Khurum Jari, and good morning to one and all present in this meeting. It is our holy tradition to worship Goddess Saraswati before any important event. So let us invoke blessings of the Goddess of Knowledge with a shlok. Saraswati Mahabhage Vidye Kamallochne Vidya Rupe Vishalakshi Vidyam Dei Namostite. It means, O Goddess Saraswati, the most auspicious Goddess of knowledge with lotus-like eyes, you are the manifestation of infinite knowledge. Shower us with your blessings, we salute you. With this supplication of Ma Saraswati, myself, Dr. Madhurani, Assistant Professor in Department of Botany, Deshbandhu College, extend a very warm welcome in the fifth event for the session 2022-23, organized under the flagship of Vidya Vistar scheme, jointly by Deshbandhu College, University of Delhi, and Pattigrew College, Manipur University. On behalf of Vidya Vistar team of Deshbandhu College and Pattigrew College, I humbly welcome our invited speaker for today's webinar, Dr. Nai Lailam Haukip, Assistant Professor in Department of Philosophy at Presidency University, Kolkata. Respected Principal of Deshbandhu College, Professor Rajiv Agrawal sir. Respected Principal from Pettigrew College, Shri Surai Shank sir. Respected Vice Principal, Deshbandhu College, Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta sir. Coordinator for IQAC at Deshbandhu College, Dr. Aditya Saxena. Convener for Vidya Vistar team from Deshbandhu College, Dr. Moses and Dr. Parul Singh. Convener for Vidya Vistar scheme from Pattigrew College, Shri Kafong Singh and Dr. Gaikwanglu Naomi. I also take this opportunity to welcome esteemed faculty members joining us today from Deshbandhu College, Pattigrew College and other institutions, and our dear students participating from Deshbandhu College, Pattigrew College and different other colleges from the Delhi University and Manipur University. To begin with, I request Parul ma'am to play the Kulgeet of University of Delhi.
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम
श्रेष्ठ सुंदर दिव्य दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय विहंगम
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम सकल वसुधा निज कुटुंब की भावना संस्कृति सनातन आधुनिक शिक्षा पुरातन ज्ञान धाराओं का संगम
देश की स्वाधीनता हित भूमिका शतकोटि वंदन
निष्ठा धृति सत्यम के मंगल दिव्य भावों का समागम
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
भव्य महाविद्यालयों के परिसरों से चिर सुशोभित श्रेष्ठ गुरुजन कर रहे नित छात्र और छात्राएं दीक्षित
सदचरित्राचार पावन साधना संकल्प संयम
नवल वैश्विक चेतना नव क्रांति संस्कारों का उद्गम जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का लोक अनुपम
श्रेष्ठ सुंदर दिव्य दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय विहंगम
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
ज्ञान का आलोक अनुपम
Thank you, ma'am. The Vidya Vistar team has successfully organized various events, including webinars, workshops, training sessions, since its inception in August of 2021. This achievement is the outcome of support and encouragement of our dynamic principal, Professor Rajiv Agrawal, sir. Due to prior commitments, sir could not join us today for this event, and he conveyed his best wishes, blessings, and gratitude to all the participants. Our team is always guided and stimulated to work continuously to achieve the objectives of this scheme by our exuberant Vice Principal, Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta, sir. I now request and invite sir to address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Madhu. Am I audible? Okay, thank you. Good morning from Delhi, from Deshbandhu College. I feel honored to welcome today's guest speaker, Dr. Hawkip, Principal, Professor Rajiv Agrawal, Deshbandhu College, and also the Principal, Pittaguru College, Mr. Soraishang, conveners, Vidya Vistar Scheme, Deshbandhu College, Dr. Moses, and Dr. Parul, and also Pittaguru College, Dr. Kapil Singh and Guy Kolong. Then the coordinators, science coordinators, Dr. Aparna and Dr. Bela, and all the faculty members associated with the Vidya Vistar Scheme. I welcome all the participants, all the teachers, all the students, and this welcome is from Deshbandhu College and from my own behalf. Today's talk, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Vidya Vistar team that, as Madhu has just mentioned, that right from inception, they are very, very active. They are looking, they are organizing workshops, they are organizing seminars, and not only seminars and workshops, live shows, and also which are really required, most apt for the need of the society in today's context. And then when I saw today's talk, a person from philosophy speaking on the evolution of ethics in developing world, that is really a marvelous choice of the topic and speaker. I'm not a person of philosophy, but of course, the ethics, developing world, morality, they are close to my heart. And these are the topic that's not for a person of a specific subject, but for each and every one. We talk of the ethics, we talk of the morality, we talk of the culture. And as our renowned speaker will mention, that though there is some difference in this, but they three are interrelated. Ethics, when we talk, it is a study. Morality, when we talk, it is action. And culture, it is the guidelines, if I'm not wrong. And what I say, whatever I will be speaking, it is my own observations, my personal experience today. I'm not a person of this subject. You know, human being is a social animal. It's an animal, but it is different from the animal. It is a social animal, and human being, as our Vedas say, is the only yoni where we have free will of karma. We can decide our actions, which is not there in other animals. Other animals, the sole purpose of life is to sustain by feeding, by eating, and to reproduce so they can continue with the species. But human being is above all. They have a free will of karma. And when we talk about the karma, what shall be the karma? So they can go for well-being of their own, well-being of family, well-being of neighborhood and society, community, village, city, country, and human being. And it's not only human being, we say that well-being of the Mother Earth, which include each and every creature. Let it be plant, let it be animal, let it be river. So that is why the human being was created by God. But there's a big question on that. Are we really doing? Are we really doing well-being of ours? Our well-being is decided by that. Are we happy? We are not. We pretend that we are happy. Our actions, by our actions, we always pretend that we are doing good. For that, we do justifications. And whenever we give justifications of our actions, then there's a big question mark. So what I mean to say, there are some of the questions needs to be addressed. Then, of course, when we talk about the development, we are really moving in developed society, and especially this is very, very pertinent in context to India because we are in the transition phase. What shall be our actions? What shall be our aim? What shall be our growth? You know, in a developed country, a survey was conducted, and when they start calculating loss and gains, they say we have gained, we have a very comfortable life, electricity, this, that, so convenient is there in the life. But then the question raised, what we have lost. And probably when they calculated, they have lost so many things by gaining some of the materialistic benefit. If I talk in terms of loss, it was that they lost peace of mind. There were very, very cases of depressions. There were increased cases of sexual transmitted diseases. There are the obesity. There are the teenage pregnancy. Then there were broken families, drug addictions, and all these things. So do we really need development by paying this much cost? Probably not. Right now, we talk about that there is an increase in the old age homes. But what could be the possible reason for increase in the old age home? Are the parents giving good attentions to the children? If they are not being parented properly, then naturally we should expect that ultimately we are not able to take care of our children. The ultimate destination of our journey is going to be old age home. Anyway, that's my, because I could speak so much because that topic is very, very close to my heart. And what I have observed, what I learned, what I could see from surroundings, that's why I observe this. But of course, we have our respected speaker. She will certainly highlight she will address many of the issues. She will certainly highlight many of the things. And without taking much of the time, I think I stop myself here and I give again the platform to Dr. Madhu to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Definitely, sir. We all are eagerly waiting for our speaker, ma'am, to enlighten us on this very much needed topic for today's time. But before that, I would like to invite our IQAC coordinator. Actually, the Deshbandhu team is achieving every milestone in every field. And the driving force behind these victories is Dr. Aditya, sir, who is coordinator for IQAC. And I now take this opportunity to welcome and invite Dr. Aditya Saxena, sir, to say a few words to us.
Thank you so much, Madhu ma'am. And first of all, I would like to extend a very warm and hearty welcome to our guest speaker, Dr. Haukip. Also, our principal, Professor Rajiv Agarwal, Principal, Pettigrew College, Mr. K.S. Sureshan, then Vice Principal Sir, Professor Kamal Gupta, conveners for the V2S scheme from Deshbandhu College, Dr. Moses and Dr. Parul, conveners from Pettigrew College, Mr. M. Kapung Singh and Dr. Gaik Huanglang, the science coordinators for the scheme from Deshbandhu College, Dr. Bela ma'am and Dr. Aparna ma'am, from the arts side, Dr. Chotul sir and Dr. Anand sir, and the event coordinators, Dr. Sarvendra and Dr. Shilpi, and Dr. Valte. So I really congratulate the entire V2S scheme for organizing such a wonderful talk on a very, very relevant and important topic, especially in the current context. And one thing that I would like to mention over here is that because the topic is such that we are talking of a changing world, but in a changing world where everything is temporary and transient and constantly in a state of flux, their ethics is one thing which remains constant. In fact, it forms the basis of how we will interact and continue to grow and live happily. So if we really want that happiness in our society, in our environment, in our neighborhood, in our surroundings, then ethics is something which is most important to our existence, which is most important for us. And that is why I think this topic for today is very relevant and important for us. And I really congratulate the V2S team for organizing this topic. And I once again welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Haukip, and I'm really thankful to her, ma'am, that you've agreed to deliver this talk today for enlightening all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And we have to wait a little bit more, as we all might not be aware about this scheme. So I would now like to invite Dr. Anand Kumar, Associate Professor in Department of Sanskrit and Art Coordinator for Vidya Vistar scheme at Deshbandhu College, to kindly introduce the scheme. And also, sir, I would request you to kindly introduce our invited speaker afterwards. So over to Anand, sir.
Thank you, Madhu ma'am. A very happy morning to one and all. Deshbandhu College, University of Delhi and Patagri College, Manipur once again welcome you all to the platform of Vidya Vistar scheme, an initiative of University of Delhi. Vidya Vistar scheme is all about sharing of knowledge and resources between the partner institutions. Under the leadership of our principal, Professor Ravji Agarwal, and Dr. Sri K. Sorai Sang, Principal, Patagri College, we have been jointly organizing various events to enhance collaboration between the two institutions. Today, we have with us Dr. Nai Lailam Haukip, and Assistant Professor in the Department of Philosophy, Presidency University, Kolkata. Dr. Haukip is a graduate from University of Delhi and doctorate from School of Social Science, JNU. She also has the experience of teaching in Lakshmibai College, University of Delhi. Her interest range from philosophy of mind, applied ethics, philosophy of religion, environmental ethics, and moral philosophy. She has done her research on subjectivity and moral responsibility, contemporary debates on the concept of persons. She has done MPhil on the problem of personal identity, some ontological and ethical issues. She is currently teaching in the Department of Philosophy, Presidency University, Kolkata. Dr. Haukip has presented papers on topics related to understanding self, personhood, and agency from the first-person perspective. Second, religion and faith, and women and nature, peaceful coexistence, the aim of religion. Today, she is with us to speak on evolution of ethics in the changing world. It is our privilege that she is there to address the August gathering. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you. Madhu, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Dr. Haukip,
Pandeen.
are you able to present and unmute?
Yes, ma'am. So can I start now?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the Deshbandhu College, and especially the principal, Professor Rajiv Agarwal, and principal of Pettigrew College, Mr. K.S. Sorai Sang. Thank you to Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta, Vice Principal of Deshbandhu College, Dr. Aditya Saxena, Coordinator of IQAC, Deshbandhu College, conveners from Deshbandhu College and Pettigrew College, and coordinators of the event, Vidya Vistar scheme, and to the people who are gathered here today, to everyone who has participated from both the colleges, my dear colleagues and dear students, a very good morning to all of you. And thank you, Anand sir, for the introduction. I feel really privileged and honored to be part of the Vidya Vistar scheme. It is a very important platform in the 21st century where we share knowledge from one university to another. I am very fortunate that I've been asked by Dr. Shilpi Srivastava, a good friend of mine, to be part of this scheme and to share my thoughts on the chosen topic today. Before I start, let me share my presentation. Just give me a minute. Is it visible?
Yeah, ma'am, it's visible.
And I am audible?
Yes, clearly, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So, as the thoughts shared by Vice Principal Sir really resonates with me. Before I start my talk, I want to make one or two points which may be important. So I just want to make a few clarification. I have chosen the topic evolution of ethics in the changing world, keeping in mind the changes on how we understand ethics or morality over the centuries. Okay, so the first thing is I am going to look at it from the Western perspective, because I will not be able to do justice to both Western and Indian perspective in this platform. Both are very vast and both has a lot of area that needs to be covered, which I will not be able to do due to paucity of time. So please bear with me. I will be concentrating on the Western perspective. That is the first thing. The second thing is because the evolution takes place over a centuries. So what I will do is I am going to choose few important thinkers and also few important points in where the changes are really radical in the process of thought. So as we all know, philosophy deals with the reason behind everything. Okay, so we have philosophy of science, we have philosophy of law, philosophy of, all the social and political philosophy, philosophy of economics. So philosophy is applicable in every subject matter that we deal with as a human being, as a society. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the meaning of ethics and morality, which keeps on changing according to the need of the society in the changing world, starting from the Greek society, because that is where the Western society, Western philosophy starts. So here, I want to clarify in the introduction itself that ethics and morality will be used synonymously. They will mean the same thing. And so when we use the word ethics, what is it that comes to mind? So the first thing that comes to mind is good or bad, right or wrong. It has to do with human action. It has nothing to do with, initially, it has nothing to do with animals or other species. It's about human beings in the society, who live in the society, who interact, and who has this complex relationships. So it has to do with practical decision making, which has the nature of ultimate values and standards by which human actions can be judged right or wrong. So this is going to be the subject matter that we are going to discuss today. So when we say ethical principles, when we use the word ethics or morality, what comes to mind? So the list is not exhaustive, because there are so many other things that can be included. But as I said, again, because of the space and the platform, I have picked these few points, which are honesty, integrity, justice, responsibility, autonomy, compassion, truthfulness. So these are the things that comes to our mind when we use the word ethics or ethical principle. And the word arrives from both the Greek word and the Latin word, which has to do with character, or which has to do with the customary way of people living their own life or acting. So when we say ethics, what is it that it means evaluation of moral values, principles, standards of human conduct, and its application in daily life to determine acceptable human behavior. So this is very important because we usually, in a society, we usually go through changes, and the acceptable norms also undergoes changes according to the need of the society. So that's why ethics, the meaning of ethics and the understanding of ethics also undergoes changes. Now, the prominent thinkers that we are going to mention in this talk are these thinkers. So, as I said, due to the nature of the talk, I cannot deal with each and every thinker. So I have chosen these few thinkers who were prominent due to their contribution towards the nature of ethics, which we are going to discuss today. Now, before we start with the thinkers, we will start with the ancient Greeks, because the Greeks were the starting point of Western philosophy. You know, they were the one who started to ask questions different from and seek answers different from the religious answer that were provided. So they were the one who, you know, tried to break away from the religious situation which was prevalent at that time, and they were the one who started asking, what is reality? You know, what is there beyond life, beyond experience? What is the one truth beyond experience? So they were the one who started asking these questions. So that usually they are considered to be the founder of philosophy in Western philosophy. So for them, virtue or good living or goodness or happiness was something they were looking for. Of course, it takes different meanings for different thinkers that we will come to later. And there were a group of people called the Sophists during the Greeks' golden era, who were responsible for convincing or teaching people how to, further their career through rhetoric. Okay, so they were called the Sophists. And for the Sophists, there were goodness and badness, or good and bad, or right and wrong was always relative. You know, there was nothing that is important or that is good in itself or apart from the reality. So the Sophists were traveling teachers in one sense. They used to travel from one city to another and teach people how to be a good rhetorician so that they can rise in the, in the political arena for the Greek city-states, and which was totally against what the Platonists or the followers of Plato or Plato himself, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, what they were standing for. Because for Plato, good or happiness or the virtue is something that exists beyond my experiential world, the forms that we call it. Now, for Plato, again, the important thing to be taken out from him is that this justice or this goodness is good because it is advantageous for oneself as well as others. So the other and the one, that is the society was always, or the community was always very important for the Greek thinkers. Okay, so we need to keep this in mind. Aristotle, who comes after Plato, was a student of Plato, and he was the one who coined the term man is a rational animal. So he would stress on the importance of reason, of the mind. He will bring in the importance of the difference of men from other species. So for him, even though it is important for this goodness or the good is important and or rewarding for the individual as well as the community. For Aristotle, the highest and most satisfying form of human existence involves the exercise of one's rational faculties to the fullest extent. So for him, it is not just about the accepting that goodness or the good is something beyond that exists beyond our society, but also it can be achieved only if we apply our or exercise our rational faculties, that is the mind. So Plato and Aristotle were able to change the beginning of ethics or morality from the basal or the basic understanding which was prevalent at that time to the golden age of Greek philosophy, due to their contribution in giving the definition of morality as something which requires the rational faculty, that is the mind, as well as something which is objective in nature, which is not subjective. That is, it do not depend on me what is good or bad. Okay, it depends on something else beyond me. So this was their contribution, and this was how the understanding of ethics and morality started from the Greeks. Now we go on to the scholastics or the medieval thinkers. Now St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas belongs to the Catholic Church. So both of them tries to discuss and tries to reconcile this Greek philosophy with Christianity. So their influence is still felt today, especially in the Catholic Church. So Augustine was more of a Platonist. So he believed that this a view of goodness is a form, that is, it exists, it's an objective. The moral good is an objective entity, or it is objective in nature, and this enables him to bring in the difference between the physical or the bodily pleasure and the other pleasure, that is the soul, which is looking for the union with God in Christianity. So the relative inferiority of bodily pleasure was the outcome of applying Platonic theme of morality in Christianity, which was brought in by St. Augustine. Then we have Thomas Aquinas, who was more of an Aristotelian. He believed that, not only the highest good, the summum bonum, the highest good of human action is happiness, because happiness was something that Aristotle talked about a lot in his Nicomachean Ethics. He talks about eudaimonia, which is happiness, which is roughly translated into happiness, which everybody is looking for and striving for. Now, how we go about that, again, that will take a lot of time. So I'm just mentioning because I'm dealing with the overview, so I will not be able to go into detail of how Aristotle talks about eudaimonia. But Thomas Aquinas was influenced by this eudaimonia of Aristotle, and for him, he again tried to reconcile this reason, this application of the mind with Christianity. So idea that happiness is to be found in the love of God. Okay, so he would try to bring all the good things and the happiness that we are looking for to the love of God, which is to be found in the love of God alone. So Aquinas' work was to reconcile Aristotle's views with Christian doctrine. Now we come to the modern thinkers, and amongst the modern thinkers, one of the most important figure or thinker who talked about ethics and who had contributed a lot in the evolution of ethics was Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher. He come up with an idea of deontology. His ethics was known as deontology. That basically means that what is right because it is the right thing to do. So duty for duty's sake. I ought to do my duty because it is my duty, not because of anything else. And that is the moral, that only then it will make my work moral. So he gave these categorical imperatives, and one of them, the most important one, in my opinion, was act only on that maxim through which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. He would talk about, following a moral law, which we all would like to become a universal law. I cannot do something, for example, if I promise somebody that, I'm going to repay the money, and if I take a debt, a loan from someone, but did not repay it, and if that if I do something like that, and if that becomes a universal law, that is going to be worse for the society. So he would say that do only those things, act only on those actions which you want it for everybody to be followed. Okay, so that is what morality is about. That is what makes my actions moral for Kant. So duty for duty's sake. And so his way of looking at morality becomes deontological. That is, action decides. Okay, so it is what is my intention when I do it, and is my action capable of becoming a universal law which will be acceptable and which will help the society or not. Okay, so Kant's contribution is something which till today we are following it, and we are judging ethical actions based on whether it is deontologically acceptable or not. Next, we have Jeremy Bentham. Now, Bentham founded a school of thought called utilitarianism. And he, for the utilitarians, the greatest good for the greatest number. An action is moral if it brings happiness for the greatest number of people. Now, he stressed on the quantity of the people who are being involved or the actions. So he would say that whatever increases the net surplus of pleasure over pain is right, and whatever decreases it is wrong. So for Bentham, it was important how many pleasure or pain was increased or decreased by my action. The outcome of my action decides whether my action is moral or not. This view was criticized by a lot of thinkers because it seems to club together any action. There was no differentiation between quality of actions or quality of pleasure or pain. So John Stuart Mill, who followed Jeremy Bentham's shoes, he wrote an essay called Utilitarianism, and he distinguished between the qualitative aspect of pleasure and pain. So he was able to say, better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. And this makes utilitarianism such a strong contender for human actions, the judgment of the moral aspect of human action, that till today we have utilitarianism in one form or the other. And even in the 21st century, we judge action on the basis of the outcome of their actions. And we still have contemporary thinkers, contemporary philosophers judging actions based on its utility. This utilitarian principle is still one of the most followed and the most dissected form of looking at the world. Now we come to the contemporary thinkers, and here the first one is Derek Parfit. He can be considered as one of the most influential 20th century and 21st century philosopher. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2017. I also worked in my one of my chapter in my thesis was on his work. He had given us a lot to think about in terms of rationality, in terms of ethics. And he, in his book, Reasons and Persons, which was published in 1984, there he talks about how personal identity has nothing to do with personal survival. And that is a radical thought in the area of personal philosophy of mind. I will not be going into that. But the most important point that I want to take out here is the implication of this view. Because if my identity do not have anything to do with my survival, then why should I stop myself, or why should I get out of my comfort zone to do something good? Why should I control my actions? And why should I worry about, let's say, the future generations? Okay, so why should I be ethical then? Why should I be moral? Why should I act morally or ethically? So these implications of his standpoint was thoroughly discussed and debated in philosophical area. And here it is explored in details on how rationality, ethics, and personal identity are intertwined. Because one of the most important examples that he gave, I just want to mention here, is that he talks about how if there is a clone, because cloning is one of the applied ethical area in where bioethics area, where we will come to it later a bit. So if my clone exists, and if I have, let's say, if I make a clone, for example, because due to some problem in this body, and I transferred, this is a thought experiment, please keep in mind, I transferred whatever is my ideas and values into that clone, he would say that that is perfectly acceptable kind of existence. Now, the question is, for example, if my mother, so am I supposed to take my mother's clone as my mother? Because the bodily continuity, the body that decides a person, the identity of a person is being discarded by perfect. And that makes his standpoint that much more controversial and debatable. And so his contribution in ethical issues regarding the future generations brings in a lot of important ideas. So I just want to mention here. Another thinker that contributed a lot in the evolution of ethics is Peter Singer. His books, I just mentioned two of them, Animal Treatment, Animal Liberation, and Practical Ethics, are well known to any student of ethics. He is a highly read contemporary thinker. So he's an utilitarianist, by the way, he's an utilitarian. And so he believed in how to do the most good to make the world a better place. So he would talk about, donations, donating for charity, donating for any kind of natural calamities. He would say that, if my action is going to help the society in some way or the other, no matter the person may exist, be near me or be existing in thousands of kilometers away from me, that is not going to stop me, or that do not give me the freedom not to give. So he would talk about altruism, helping, and he is somebody that contributed a lot in the growth, in the evolution of ethics. So till here, what I have done is to mention some thinkers, some prominent thinkers, since the Greeks, the medievals, the modern thinkers, to the contemporary thinkers. Now, I would like to go on to the next section, where I want to discuss the nitty-gritty of ethics, go a little bit deeper into that. So there are mainly three types of ethics. When we say the word ethics in philosophy, we say there are mainly three types. The meta-ethics deals with the philosophical, metaphysical, epistemological, and psychological presuppositions and commitments. So the questions which are being asked in meta-ethics deals with, is morality more a matter of taste than truth? Are moral standards culturally relative? Are there moral facts at all? Which was the area of Greek philosophers, and to an extent to the medieval philosophers. Okay, so they try to come up with the basic structure, the basic principles of ethics, and they try to see what ethics mean, and they try to give us the definitions. Normative ethics was what was done during by the modern thinkers, the deontological and teleological or consequentialist philosopher. This is how to deal with or determining the standards we arrive at and justify. Okay, so here Immanuel Kant would say that do things on principle because they're inherently right. Utilitarianism would say that an action is right because of the goodness of their consequences, and wrong because of the badness of their consequences. So this is the area of normative ethics. How do you apply it? Okay, and we have applied ethics. This is the most important one for the 21st century, I feel, and I would like to dwell on applied ethics for some time, because it touches every aspect of our lives, especially as we know our life is becoming more and more complex due to the technological advancements that we have. And so there are more areas in which applied ethics is needed. And so it has a practical moral problems needs answers, and this is what we are dealing with. So it deals with human rights, social equality, moral implications of scientific research like genetic engineering, stem cell research, euthanasia, suicide, abortion, and all these things comes under applied ethics. Now, these main schools, again, I just want to put it to refresh the memory. These are the main schools of ethics, and we will be looking into this. The application of ethical theories in areas, this list is not exhaustive. There are a lot more areas which are where ethics is being applied. So to name a few, we have ethics in management, biomedical ethics, business ethics, military ethics, public service ethics. And I want to deal with these three in particular today, which is environmental ethics, professional ethics, and bioethics. Why I have chosen this? Because environmental ethics, as we know, we are undergoing global warming right now. And so I think it is important to deal with the role of ethics in the preservation of environment. And professional ethics, because we need this in every aspect of our life, whether we are in public sector, in academics, in private sector, in corporate sector, anywhere, an entrepreneur, wherever we are, we need to have an idea of what professional ethics requires us to do. And bioethics, again, because it has to do with human life. It deals with human life in every aspect, whether it be law, whether it be socio-political, whether it be economic, whether it be health policies. So we need this bioethics in our, the area of bioethics is vast, and it is in every aspect of our life. So I have chosen these three topics. Now, when we come to environmental ethics, before the 1960s, it's not that we were not aware of the importance of environment. We were very much aware of it, but the environment was not taken as seriously as we took it right now. So, for example, even in India, we have we made environmental science, or EVS, part of school curriculum now, but that was not the case in the prior to 1960s. So the environment was somehow taken not as granted per se, but then as there, and then we realized slowly and steadily the intrinsic value of the ecology or of the environment. This value, independent of the instrumental value they may have for humans or non-human animals, this is the most important realization that we had regarding the environment. And this is why we started taking the environment more seriously, because we become aware of the intrinsic interaction and connectivity between the environment and our life. So, what are the questions that we are struggling with, okay, when it comes to the environment? There are many, but one thing that I want to point out here is what is our obligations towards the future generations. This is important because it touched each and every one of us. As a human species, we all want our future generation to continue. We do not want the humanity to be extinct. This is one basic, human needs that we have. So how much do we owe? What kind of, duty do we have towards the non-existent? There are many debates on some saying that we don't owe them any, some saying that, we owe as much as we can, another saying that, we never know whether they will even be able to be born with the kind of environment that we have. Even if we keep away all those things, when we look at the world that we live in right now, say, for example, the radioactive waste or the emission of gases, and its contribution towards the climate change, we do, in fact, owe something, or we affect the future generation. So our our everyday life and our actions needs to be, needs to follow this important point. We need to keep this important point. How do we become aware, and what is it that we want? How do we come into this situation? From the Western perspective, or from the Western thinkers, I want to mention Aldo Leopold. Now, Leopold was an American environmentalist, and he published a book called A Sand County Almanac in 1949. That was a posthumously published book, who coined the term land ethics. And here, what he means by the term land ethics, it means that people and land are intertwined, and care for people cannot be separated from care of the land. Now, he was responsible to a lot of extent in bringing in the importance of conserving the land or the ecosystem for our survival from the Western perspective. And so since this book, till today, this land ethics is something that we studied in environmental sciences. And this is something that we all still debate about and try to bring in the importance of this land ethics. Because the soil, what he's saying is that even the soil is a living being. And we are intricately related with this soil as we are related with other human beings. It is no less important. So the intrinsic value of not just other living beings like plants, but even the land, the soil, is as important as other human beings. From the Indian thinkers, contemporary scholars, I wanted to pick Vandana Shiva. I have been following her work, and I really appreciate what she's doing right now. As Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta was saying, for a society like India, we are a developing nation and an agrarian society. We need to protect our farmers, and she is doing that by preserving seeds. She launched this Navdanya, and here she is storing and she's starting this seed banks where she put these organic seeds that is to be used by the farmer. Why is that important? Because of the corporations who are trying to introduce genetically modified seeds, because those are very high maintenance, where the poor farmers are not able to use it properly because of high debt. So she is in the process of having these seed banks and distributing seeds to the farmers and trying to reintroduce the organic farming to fight this corporate's overtaking of the seeds for the farmer. And I really find this important in the 21st century, because the soils are depleting, and so you need to be able to learn how to fight this without pesticides. Without pesticides. That is a catch point here, because the pesticides that we use are going to again go inside of us indirectly through the foods that we consume. So I think this is one very good movement which is happening in India right now, and she has done a lot in terms of Navdanya, where she has opened a seed bank. And so environmental ethics is something which we need right now to be more aware of our duty towards the environment, because of what we are going through right now, the heat, the global warming that we are suffering right now, and all these things calls us to become more aware of our every day-to-day life, as well as the policies which we are making as a nation and also as a society. Then comes professional ethics. What is a professional ethics? It is a vocation founded upon specialized educational training. So it is both, and it encompasses personal and corporate standards of behavior expected of professionals. We may be in any profession, okay? Wherever we are, we need honesty, integrity, transparency, accountability, confidentiality, objectivity, respectfulness, obedience to law. These are codes which are universal in nature, and that is going to help us be a professionally successful and also more content and happy. Because if you're not honest, if you are dishonest in your work, the outcome is not going to be a good one. So this professional ethics is, it helps us in doing this very important things in our professions. So the code of ethics is to provide guidelines for a specific group of professionals to help them perform their roles properly. It is important for any professionals to perform their roles properly, and we need ethical guidelines, ethical norms, because every profession has different guidelines. So for example, if I'm practicing law, I will have a guideline, I will have an ethical obligation towards my client, which is going to be different from if I'm practicing medicine, for example. And as a teacher, my ethical moral is different from if I would have been a lawyer or a chartered accountant. So every profession has different code of ethics, and that is important for the person to be able to do their work at the best optimum level. What it does to apply moral ethical principles in specific situations. According to our job, there are situations which are distinct, and ethical and moral principles help us in dealing with that kind of specific situations. It conveys the rights, duties, and obligations of the members of the professions as well. Okay, so by understanding the code of ethics, I will be able to understand what is my rights and duties and obligations depending on my profession. So what is the advantage of having an ethical behavior? What is the advantage of following an ethical behavior in my workplace? This can be applied differently in different jobs, different situations that we are. So building customer loyalty or building trust between me and my students, for example, if I'm a teacher, retains good employees or having good relationship with my colleagues and my other people whom I work with, creates a positive work environment, get easier to avoid legal problems for people who are working in that kind of profession, and make profit in the long run, which is the aim of business ethics. So if I'm in a business, if I'm in an organization where I am working for profit, then this ethical behavior in workplace is going to help me earn more profit in the long run, and also at the same time have a successful business. Then we come to bioethics. Bioethics is broader than just medical ethics because it doesn't just deal with healthcare, but it also deals with the conduct and research. Okay, and conduct and research or results of research in the life sciences. And also it also deals with the social political issues. For example, the health policies made by which the government comes up with. It's the area of bioethics to see if those health policies are good enough for the society or are equally applicable to every part of the society, and also what is the outcome of is there any negative impact of the health policies, for example. And what about cloning and stem cell research, genetic engineering? So even bioethics emerged in the 1960s, and it was a result of changes in the society, in the lifestyle of individual, and advances in life sciences, because organ transplantation and kidney dialysis were becoming possible. So what happened was that individuals were becoming more aware of their rights, especially over their bodies. And so the old way of, practicing medicine was being questioned. So the conventional attitudes towards marriage and reproduction changes. So we have IVF, for example. So there are a lot of pros and cons on why not. So there are many. So human beings' life become more and more complex because of the advancement in society, in science and technology. So these issues were also, as I said, it started to take more importance from the 60s, but the philosophers had talked about it, not as much as we talked about it now, but they have mentioned it these health issues were in their, in their conscience, and they were at it at some point of time. So bioethics, the role of bioethics in today's society is becoming more and more interesting and more important, because we are dealing with the society in a very complicated manner now. We have so many issues which are becoming integral part of our life, but which was not the case, say 20, 30 years before. So bioethics is trying to make us become more aware of what it is that we want, how should we handle it? Okay, so for example, let's take the example of euthanasia. As the society, as human life is becoming longer, so what happened is there are, I will take the example of Peter Singer. He had argued in one of his papers that a person who is mentally challenged, a child who is mentally challenged, should be, and if the child is not able to, live, the doctors are sure that the child will not be able to live a qualitative life at all in the future, then active euthanasia may be allowed in such a case. Now, that is a very controversial standpoint. So there were a lot of people who were against him because of that. And the idea is life in itself is sacred. So just because somebody is mentally challenged, you cannot allow active euthanasia. That's why India is taking a lot of time and to decide whether passive euthanasia is to be. So we have many rules and regulations on when and how passive euthanasia is going to be allowed at all, only in situations where it fulfills such and such conditions. So we have very strong conditions on where passive euthanasia may be allowed. But the point is, there are genuine conditions as well where people are asking for, so people, for example, who are suffering from terminal disease, who do not want to go through the pain anymore, and there are no way of healing it. So they actually ask for, euthanasia to be given to them, to let them go while they are aware of their surroundings, and not to let them live till they are a vegetable. So there are a lot of ethical questions. Now the question arises, if the person is saying in, with a clarity of mind, then, some countries do allow passive euthanasia. But then, there is always a slippery slope. There is always a situation where someone can be induced to say such things and can be misused. So human nature is such that, so we will always be very careful when such things happen. And again, stem cell research or cloning for that matter. Now, why would you clone your replica, for example? Is it just to use it for the body parts, or what is it for? So Dolly the sheep, which was the first clone animal, did not live a full life. She lived till 6 or 7 years only, where normal uncloned animal goat live for 12 to 13 years, 13 to 14 years maximum. So keeping all those things in mind, are we, doing the right thing by, pursuing cloning or stem cell research, for example? And so are we going to go through all these things just to benefit somebody, or is it for something else? Now, if it is for something else, what is it? And if it is for benefiting someone, why? Why do we have to, just for some part or just for something, why do we go for it? Genetic engineering, again. So, we have so many areas in where we can go deep into it, and bioethics allow us to explore it and go deep into the whys, pros and cons of this area. And another important point that I just want to mention is the health policies, which is, again, the social political aspect of bioethics. Now, after COVID, every government in the world become more awake to the importance of healthcare policies. And India being a developing country, we are always, in the lookout for different ideas, new ideas on how to, take care of our populations, how to take care of our people in such kind of emergencies. And that's why it is so important to have a healthcare policies in the future, or even from now onwards. So bioethics would go into it and say that, it should be applicable for each and every part of the society. It should not be just for the elite, for example. So it should be for each and every part of the society should learn or should be getting the benefit of that policies, and it should trickle down to the lowest level of the society. So this is what bioethics deals with. And as I said, Plato had talked about selective human breeding in the Republic, in the case of a philosopher king, where a philosopher king rules. And so obviously he was talking in terms of, how to make, and the Spartan society underwent, they did the same thing, where the stronger kid is encouraged and the weaker children are discouraged from, becoming part of the society. That was the Greek city-states, as we know. And Hippocratic oath is what we have used till today to medical professionals. And Thomas Aquinas also talked about permissibility of abortion, and Immanuel Kant argue against the sale of human body parts. These were the things that was, all talked about by philosophers that we have discussed them. To conclude, I want to stress on the changes, the evolution of how ethics was being understood from the Greeks to the contemporary time. Of course, these changes are the outcome of the society needs, the evolution of societal needs. We are a product of nature and nurture. Human beings are not just a product of one aspect of nature. The nurture, the environment plays a huge role in our personality and the way we think, the ideologies that we subscribe to, and the kind of outlook that we have. So all these things allow us to shape our views in different ways. And so the societal needs keeps on changing. These changes in the societal needs brings about the evolution of the understanding of morality and ethics. And so these so the ethical theories are trying to keep up with these needs and are trying to fulfill these needs by coming up with different ways of looking at it. For example, ethics of law. And so what we are trying to do is the ethical principles are being reinterpreted, and ethical principles are being applied in our everyday situations, which were not. So the philosophers are trying to, help the society in dealing with the reality of our lives. And this reaffirmed the importance of philosophy in the 21st century. And I want to highlight this because, this is one of the most important aspects of philosophy. Philosophy allows you to have a broad-mindedness, an open mind, which challenge you to change your worldview, and in the light of the need of the society, in the light of the practical needs which are prevalent in the present society. So philosophy allows you to come up with different perspectives, allows you to accept different perspectives, and also allows you to have an open mind about the fact that, okay, my view may need some form of, changes or some form of supplement. So I am not in a position to have this, full facts in front of me. It's not possible for one human being to know everything. Okay, so I always have this open mind about another person's view, and my standpoint can be questioned, is liable to be questioned, and is liable to change. These open-mindedness help philosophy and philosophers to change according to the need of society and come up with practical solutions and theories to be applied in our practical daily need. And so this reaffirmed the importance of philosophy as the society undergoes change. Due to advancements in science and technologies, we have different, for example, as I said, stem cell research or cloning were not a problem in the 16th, 17th centuries, but it is definitely now. So as human society evolved, as scientific advancements are evolved, our needs also evolve and our practical needs evolve. And so philosophy is, especially applied philosophy, applied ethics and applied ethics is in that area trying to come up with ways to deal with it. And I think that it is very important to go deeper into each and every, and for those of you who may be interested, you can always do that. And this is a very important point that needs to be stressed here. It reaffirms the importance of philosophy in the 21st century to deal with the need of the society. Here comes the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Haukip, for this very, very interesting presentation. It definitely must have been a Herculean task to cover the length of ethical development right from the Greeks to the contemporary concerns, and you've done it brilliantly. So now that we come to the end of a very fruitful and thought-provoking session regarding an understanding of how ethical values have evolved over time. But as it is said, every end is a beginning in disguise. So now we also begin with our question-answer sessions. I request all the participants to please post their queries in the chat box. We already have some, which I'll be taking up. But before I take up the questions, I request all participants to fill up the feedback form. The link to the feedback form is available in the chat. And also the participants who have joined through the YouTube channel, the link should be available in the comment section. So everybody is requested to please fill the feedback form. All participants who fill the feedback form will be provided with an e-certificate. Now, with your permission, Dr. Haukip, may I just start taking up the questions?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So, the very first question comes from one of our students, Bijaksh Mukherjee from Life Sciences, first year, BSc Life Sciences. The question is pursuit of social status, wealth, power, and pleasure morally right or wrong? How do you justify it, as our world is greatly influenced by these things? And do ethics and morality sometimes seems to diverge in nature? So I think it's two questions, rather three. If you can just respond to them.
Yeah. See, there is nothing wrong in, trying to achieve success. Okay, wealth, power, all these things are a form of if you're happy about it. But the problem is, while trying to achieve these successes, one end up losing oneself. Now, ethics and morality, the ethical law or the ethical approach would be there is nothing wrong in pursuing successes, but then you do it in such a way that it will make you happy. It's not necessary that, wealth will make you happy, so because, there is a means and ends. What kind of means do you apply in achieving your ends? That is going to be very important in the long run, because after all, we are all human beings. We are not going to, so a deontological perspective would say, why are you trying to achieve that success? Utilitarianism, again, as I said, there are many different types of utilitarianism. And altruistic utilitarianism would say that, if giving, donating makes me happy, I should. So the happiness, the teleological aspect would be something which is the most important aspect. What gives me happiness? Do achieving all those things give you happiness? So, and another important point would be, what is happiness for you? Is achieving wealth the main happiness? Do you think it will make you happy? So you see, the question is not about achieving wealth or fame. It's about contentment. It's about happiness. It's about something that makes you feel good. Okay, so the rightness and the wrongness of your action will depend on whether you are happy about your action. I hope I answer your question.
Well, I hope you've got your answer. With that, I go to the next question. The next question is from Wungre Philava, if I am pronouncing your name correctly. The question is from the topic of Derek Parfit, where he said that there is no connection between personal identity and personal survival. That identity is not what matters. So the question is how one does to survive in what gives us the identity in the modern society. That is how we are identified as in the eyes of society. Is it really just a mere philosophy, or can we apply it practically in our daily life? This, I think, the dissociation between personal survival and their identity, can that be practically implied? I think that's the question.
Well, he was talking about ideas, about the psychological connectivity. So Parfit was applying, what he was trying to say was, what is the most important thing that matters? Is it, so this was in personal identity. So the continuity of the body or the mind, or psychological continuity. And he was leaning towards psychological continuity. He says that, no, I'm just, before I answer your question, I just want to clarify what Parfit was talking about. So Parfit was saying that, you see, the psychology, the values, the ideas that makes me who I am, as long as those continues, I continue to exist. That's what he was talking about. That's why he was saying that, you know, there is no necessary connection between the body, the physical body, and the survival. As long as my ideas, my values survive, I will survive in some form or the other. Now, whether that can be applied in today's society, you know, I'm not sure, because there are a lot of cases of personal identity theft which is happening, where you have no connection between the person you are claiming to be and you actually are. So, you know, a lot of people do apply that, not in a good sense, of course, not in a good way. But as I said, what Parfit talks about is more in terms of psychological continuity. And my stress was on the repercussion, the implication of this standpoint in ethical principles. I hope I answer your question. Next, please.
Thank you, ma'am. We move to the next question. The next question is from Anuj Singh. He asks, ma'am, how would the distinction of a bioethical barrier be decided even when we are not knowing the consequences for long run?
Can you please repeat? Shilpi, your voice was breaking, so. Shilpi?
Shilpi, are you there? Madhu, Dr. Madhu, are you there?
Yeah, ma'am. I think she must be having some technical glitch.
Yeah, you can take further questions.
Ma'am, if you can please repeat the question. I could not hear her because her voice was breaking.
Okay, ma'am. I'm just repeating the question again. I'll just give me a minute. Oh, so the question was, how would the distinction of a bioethical barrier be decided even when not knowing the consequences for long run? I mean, I think Anuj, he must be asking about some, maybe about the biotechnological things which we are doing, making new plants and all.
Okay, I am not very sure what you mean by the question, but I will try to answer it as I understand. Even when we don't know the outcome, let's say, for example, cloning, or I assume that must be what you meant. Yeah, because the action itself sometimes is questionable, even when we are not sure about the outcome yet. Because there is always an intention behind or motive behind our actions. And those motives and intentions must be something that can be acceptable to the society before we can pursue any kind of scientific, advancements. So, for example, right now, a lot of organizations and governments want to explore the space, or the moon Chandrayaan mission we have, and NASA is always trying to explore other planets. What is the intention? The intention is that, okay, maybe if the Earth become inhabitable, then we may think of trying to survive. The humanity can survive. So there is always an intention, a motive behind human actions. And that's why even when we don't know the outcome of any scientific experiment yet, we still question the intention of why that experiment is being conducted in the first place. And that's why we have we need to question them, we need to clarify them, and we need to be sure that we need it as a human being before we actually go ahead. I hope that answers your question.
Definitely, Amma, you have given an accurate and apt answer to that. But yes, this topic in itself is a very vast and a huge topic. So we need to have a separate session for this alone. So I hope, Anuj, you must have got your answer. So now we'll be moving to the next question. It is by Manisha Sengar ma'am. Could euthanasia or assisted suicide be used as a means of healthcare cost containment?
Again, ma'am, as I said, it's very, very dicey. There is always a slippery slope, which is very scary, because yes, we may have a genuine genuine cases where you desperately need it. There is no other way. But science and technology is always developing. What is there to stop us from coming out with some form of, some better form of taking care of our, sick and diseased relatives in the near future? We don't lose hope. Human beings are ingenious. So by applying euthanasia as cutting cost, that is going to be very risky, because a lot of situations may arise where people are using it intentionally to harm somebody for their own selfish reason. So you see, that is there will be it will be very difficult to decide by the authorities, or for, let's say, even for healthcare professionals, to allow in one case and not allow in another case if we allow it in the first place. So that is going to be a very risky operations, I would say, a very risky way of looking at euthanasia. And so that's why every government is very, very careful in taking making any form of law when it comes to euthanasia, because there is a high chance of being misused by some people. I mean, that is human nature. We can't control, we cannot read other people's mind. In philosophy, we call it, first person perspective, or, first person. So I can see you and I can interpret from your behavior or from your bodily behavior what you may be thinking, but I can never be 100% sure. I do not have first person access to what is going through your mind. And similar, and it's vice versa. It's the same with you to me. So I can never really know the intention of another person 100%. They may say something and the intention could have been totally different thing. That's why there is always a risk of being misused. And that's why that I would say no. Using euthanasia as a cutting cost would be a very risky measure. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, ma'am. And I think Dr. Shilpi can take over if she is good to go. Or I should take the next question before that. So next question is by Dr. Ashutosh Kumar, a faculty in Deshbandhu College. He's asking, do you think that bioethics is dominantly decided by market forces rather than religious or religio-culture concerns? He's asking it in the context of cloning, especially human cloning.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, our society is such that the market is a very forceful and very powerful force in our policy making. That there is no doubt about that. However, I will not want to say that it is just the market that decides it. Definitely, especially in a case like India, religious feeling and religious culture is very, very strong. So a country like India, we will not allow something just because the market decides it. I hope, I desperately, I am sure of that, because human life is being still treated as sacred. And we will not, allow any, but, again, that there is always a scope, a gray area where, we are not able to stop some things. For example, like tobacco. We are very much aware of what it does to us, but then the market is so powerful, the advertisement and the way that, the people who are involved in it, so powerful that we can't stop it, in spite of the government taking measures, in spite of people knowing that it's harmful for health, it is still very much there. But this is my belief that it's not always the case. There are some cases, definitely, but it is not always the case, because religious feeling, culture, tradition are very much strong, still strong in our society, thankfully. And so we are able to, hopefully we are able to, we will be able to, even in the future, withstand that kind of, pressure if it's purely from the market and not others. Yes, polythene from Ashutosh, sir, again, polythene, the single-use plastics. It's very difficult to ban. We all know the harmfulness that it causes. But then, one thing that comes to mind is, in India, do we actually use it only once? I don't believe we do it just once. We recycle that, we keep it and try to use it again and again and again, at least compared to, other developed countries. Definitely Indians, we don't throw away plastics once we use it.
We never throw away anything.
Yes, exactly.
No, we reuse it again and again.
So, so the society is, I believe that we are still strong in terms of very different things, which is, so no doubt the market is powerful, advertisement is very powerful, but we still do have some things which we hold on to. And I believe that should continue, that will continue. Thank you for your question, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. One more question is from Ankit Kumar. He is asking that he studies about evolution of ethics in the changing world, but he is, he said that I am known about biggest problem with evolution. So he says he don't have any knowledge about ethics, so he want to know about this.
Okay, yes, I was thinking of clarifying this before I started my talk. I forgot to do that. I will do it now. There is a branch of ethics called evolutionary ethiks. And I thought that I should say that at the beginning of the talk that I am not going to talk about evolutionary ethics. I'm going to talk about evolution of ethics. But yes, sir, thank you for pointing that out. Evolution, I mean, the way we as a society evolve has a lot of, it has a lot of reason why we become what we are over centuries. There are always events, there are always things that influence the way a society become what we are today. So, not just the evolution of, men from, if you subscribe to scientific view, from fish to apes to Neanderthal to Homo sapiens, not just that, but what I'm looking at is how the idea of ethics, the understanding of ethics underwent changes from the Greeks to the medievals, to the moderns, to the contemporary thinker, because the need of the society was different. Like, for example, the Greeks needed something to tell them what virtue is about. What are we? So see, the Greeks were, before they turned to philosophy, they actually turned to philosophy. They were having problem with the way Greek society was functioning, in the sense of the pantheons of gods, where they were dissatisfied with the religion. So they looked for something else apart from religion to answer the questions which were in the mind. And that's how Anaximander, Anaximenes, Thales, and all started questioning what is reality. And that's how Greek philosophy started. And so when Socrates comes into the scene, he was thinking of what is happiness, or what is virtue? What makes me happy? Because for Socrates and Plato, what is good, if you know what is virtuous things, or what is virtue, what is good, you will do it. That is how we are. You will not be able to do something else when you know what is the good thing to do, because they believe in the intrinsic goodness of human being. And so for them, it was important to understand what good is. And when they said about good, it is not just for individual, but for the community. And then comes the scholastic, the medievals, where the church was the most important and powerful force in Europe. And that's when they tried to reconcile Plato and Aristotle to Christianity. And then comes the modern thinkers, because the society was becoming more complex. So they try to look for the reason why one should be moral. And so we come up with deontology and utilitarianism. And in the contemporary society, the society is becoming much more complex than the modern society. That's why we started having these branches of applied ethics, because we realize that we need to apply these theories into our lives to make our life better. Okay, that was the evolution of ethics. I hope it helps you in a little bit in understanding the evolution of ethics from the Greeks to the present society. Thank you.
So Dr. Shilpi will be taking up from here. And ma'am, we are getting so many comments about this talk. This has been a very relevant topic, I think. So everyone is so happy. And over to you, Shilpi.
Thank you, Dr. Madhu. So we come to the next question. There is a question from one of our students, Divanshi. She's asking, question is so metaphysical that believing in God is ethical or not? Also, do God exist? And if yes, then where? What is the difference between Brahma and God, and where do Brahma exist? So basically, she's drifting from ethics to metaphysics. But if you would like to respond, ma'am.
Yeah, in philosophy, all questions are welcome. There are no wrong questions as such. The idea of God is very disputed, there are different ways of understanding the idea of God in philosophy. So again, worldview will come into play. So if you belong to a particular ideological worldview, then you will believe in the existence of God, otherwise not. Okay, so the existence of God is a disputed account. So for example, I'll give you an example. The sociological view on God would say that God is the society. The idea of the society is God. There is no God. God do not create us. We create God. Okay. So, there are so many competing views and interesting views about God. So ultimately, the belief in God is personal. It's individual. Okay. So it depends on your, again, as I said, man is the product of nature and nurture. What kind of worldview and what kind of upbringing, what kind of, belief do you have in your environment? That is going to shape your belief in God or not, for that matter. So there is a very individualistic choice regarding Brahman. The limited amount of idea that I have is Brahman is in everything. So you cannot say this is Brahman or that is Brahman. I am Brahman. So everything, Brahman exists in everything. The only problem is we do not realize it yet. And whether it be Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, any kind of religious worldview will give you competing accounts on God and the understanding of God. Now, it's your individual choice which you want to believe. Okay, so that is a very subjective standpoint. And I think this is my personal view. To each its own. Everybody is allowed to have their own view when it comes to God, because that is very, very subjective. And as long as you can answer the questions to yourself, I think that's okay. As long as you are happy with your standpoint, I think that's absolutely fine. You don't have to subscribe or be against any particular worldview, because in philosophy we learn that. I learned this in the first year of my philosophy. I was an LSR. My teacher was Dr. Makhija, a very, very sweet ma'am. The first year of my philosophy class, I attended, and it was Indian philosophy. Charvaka. Charvaka says, eat, drink, and be merry. There is no soul. There is no life after death. So after you die, everything is over. So I went to ma'am. I said, ma'am, I don't believe in this Charvaka philosophy. I cannot study because I believe in God. I believe in the existence of soul. Then she was like, Beta, you don't have to believe. You have to know. There is a difference between knowing and believing. This is what Charvaka said. You just have to know what Charvaka said. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to. And that was an eye-opener for me. So you see, any religious worldview, any knowledge is not useless. Knowledge will always help wherever you are. It may not be useful right now, but it will definitely help you at some point of your life. No knowledge is useless. So take it as a form of knowledge. Even if you disagree or agree with a particular worldview, that's okay. That's knowledge. You don't have to believe in it. But yes, if you believe in something, be able to answer questions about it. And the most important thing, be able to answer yourself. I think that should solve your question. I hope it answers your question.
Sorry to interrupt, Shilpi, please just 1 or 2 quick questions.
Okay.
Rest may get in touch with ma'am through email.
Okay,
We'll
ma'am.
run short of time for Zoom link also.
Sure, ma'am. I'll just take up a
Chotu
very
Ram ji ka ek question hai.
quick
Usko dekh
question.
lijiye.
From Dr. Chotu Ram Meena, faculty from Hindi department. He's asking, what is the role of ethics in the era of artificial intelligence? कृत्रिम बौद्धिकता के दौर में नैतिकता की क्या भूमिका हो सकती है?
Thank you for that question. It is very pertinent, especially in the 21st century. We are having, artificial intelligence is going to take over a lot of jobs. That is what is in the paper. You see, there was something that I saw in the paper yesterday. I just want to share it. Somebody said, why are you so afraid of robots? You just throw water at it. That's just something that comes to mind. What I'm trying to say is, yes, artificial intelligence is something that is a force to reckon with in the 21st century. Chat GPT, whatnot. But at the end of the day, it is human beings who created them. So the importance of ethics or morality lies in the creator of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence did not create by themselves. Till now, at least. I mean, we don't know in the future what will happen. But till now, what happened is whatever is there in the world is, apart from the natural objects, of course, is created by us. So ethics is applicable to us, not to those created stuffs or robots. And as long as there are human beings, ethics will be important, because that is a norm, that is a guideline to make us be more responsible, be more aware of our responsibility towards the society. So without that kind of norms, without that kind of guidelines, the world is going to be chaotic. There will be no society for that matter. If I do not care whether my actions will bring any repercussion to me or my family at all, if I have nothing to lose, that is going to make me a very dangerous person. That is not going to help the society at all. That's why we have correctional facilities. when we cross the lines, we need to be reminded that there are other people in the world who can get affected because of our actions. And that's why ethics will always be important as long as we exist in this world. Without our conscience, without this responsibility, the world as we know and the society as we know will cease existing in the very near future. So for humanity to continue, the moral rules and regulations are absolute necessity. I would say that. Thank you.
Thanks for the response, ma'am. I'll just end this session with a very quick, short question from one of our students. You can give a very crisp response to this. If someone's trying to look younger by the help of genetic engineering, is this morally correct?
If it makes the person happy and she or he is not harming anybody, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I remember for the first time we got in touch, you had said that you are looking forward to an interactive session, and you've got that. So thanks for the talk.
Thank you
and
so much.
I would now request Parul ma'am to please present the speaker with a e-memento. Since we are having online sessions, so we are offering e-mementos and certificates. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
There are still questions coming up, but we request the participants to please connect to ma'am through her email, which is posted in the chat box. I am sure she'll love to respond to your queries through the email.
Definitely. Please.
Now, I take the privilege of extending a formal vote of thanks. The success of any event is a result of the hard work, guidance, and support of several people, each of whom contribute in their own significant ways. We cannot imagine to bring this session to an end before we express our heartfelt gratitude to every one of them. On behalf of the Vidya Vistar team from Deshbandhu College and Pettigrew College, firstly, I extend our sincere thanks to the speaker for today's session, Dr. Nainilem Haukip. Thank you, Dr. Haukip, for this very enriching lecture on a topic that has so much relevance in each one of our lives. I extend a token of gratitude to Professor Rajiv Agarwal, Principal Deshbandhu College, Shri K.S. Sureshan, Principal Pettigrew College, Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta, Vice Principal Deshbandhu College, Dr. Aditya Saxena, IQAC Coordinator Deshbandhu College, and all our esteemed faculty members from both the colleges for showering us with constant support and motivation in all our endeavors. Team Vidya Vistar is forever grateful to each one of you. A big thank you to all the faculty members from all other colleges and institutions from Delhi and outside for being a part of this event. We look forward to your participation in all our future events too. Finally, thanks to all our student participants from Deshbandhu College, Pettigrew College, Presidency University, and all other institutions. The energy and enthusiasm that you bring with you is the real force that drives us to organize such events, and we'll keep doing so in future, so keep joining in with the same spirit. I apologize if I've missed out any name here. However, on behalf of the team Vidya Vistar, I once again thank each one of you for giving us your valuable time. Thank you. It is again requested to kindly fill the feedback form. The link is available in the chat box and the comment section on Zoom and YouTube respectively. And now may I request everyone to please switch on their cameras so that we can have a few pictures of the event. Everybody, please. I request our team to just click few pictures. Thank you. Thank you so much
Thank you.
I now request the host to please end the meeting. Thank you, everyone.